There's a place that I know, it's where all the sunshine goes, the brightest spot along the highway 1, a city where you always know someone. Hey, hey, where's it at? Hey, 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 Medicine Hat.
Welcome to my studio.
Yeah, to your studio and the Helping Hatters video podcast. And I'm sitting with Cori Stodolka. And just tell me a little bit about you and why we know each other and what you do, and just give me the pitch.
So many questions in that. You're one of my oldest friends.
Grade 1,
yeah,
I believe, is our start.
And we're coming, well, you're already at that big number of age, which I'm not going to say, and I'm there this year. So
Yeah,
that's
a decade change.
It's like 35 years of being friends, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how we know each other.
Went to school,
Irvin. Wonderful stomping grounds.
Yep.
I still get to go there because my man's now a teacher there, so that's fun.
So you went to school. We went to school together. We went to high school together. Then post-secondary land came, and we kind of, I would say, drifted in different directions and kind of did our own thing. Not that we weren't friends, but just kind of lived our 20s.
Had our own lives going on.
Yeah. So tell me about when you left Medicine Hat for the first
time. Left for the U of L. Decided I was going to be a history nerd and got my degree in history. And that was Lethbridge. And
so did you spend all 4 or 5
No,
years?
I was only 3 years there. Yeah, I did 2 years here at the college and then did a transfer program over to the U of L, which I don't feel like I had like the typical university experience. My parents had a rental property there, so I lived in a basement suite and then came home every weekend because I was like missing people and home. Yeah, totally. I'm close with my family, so I was like, I want to see them. But yeah, I lived in the library. I think I had to do like 10 papers a semester. It was so ridiculous. I just remember like my reading stack being like so big. So that's all I did. I went to school and I kept my head down and I got really great grades for it. And then I came home on the weekends and saw all the same people I had for the previous 10 years. And then, yeah, so I didn't have like those like cool bonds, I think, that people had in university. I was working a lot. I paid for school while I worked. And then right out of school, I remember someone coming up to me from the courts. She was the manager at the court system in Lethbridge. And she was like, so history, eh? And I was like, yeah. She's like, well, we have a lot of old people that work at the courthouse. And I was like, what? I'm so confused by it. She's like, yeah, we have a lot of old judges. There's a lot of history there. Do you want to come work for us? And I was like, sure.
Interesting sales pitch, for sure.
I was like, sounds good. But yeah, I had planned on going on getting my master's and becoming a historical consultant. That was really interesting for me. It still is. Like, I love like movies and checking out movies and making sure that they're like era specific and that the costumes are specific for that era. And like even teeth, like I'm always like, are their teeth too white? Because they wouldn't be that way. But yeah, I love stuff like that. So I was thinking about getting hired on with like, whether it be movies or books or like, there's so many options that way. And I was going to head out to Ontario, get my master's and do that. And then I got engaged.
Yes, the relationships help change our past, don't they?
They really do. Yeah. And so then that sort of shot me on a different trajectory.
Were you still in Calgary when you
So that was Lethbridge.
Oh, you were.
Yeah. Okay. And then I came back to Medicine Hat. I worked for the court services here for 5 years and then took off to Calgary and worked for court services at the Court of Appeal there. So I did like all 3 levels of court. Did provincial court, Queen's Bench at the time, now King's Bench. Yeah. And then Court of Appeal. It was
So how long was that role?
almost
About a
10
decade?
years. Yeah.
So a whole decade of court things.
Yeah.
And loved and loathed it, or what?
It taught me a lot about myself and what was important for me. When I was in Calgary, I started coaching business with one of my colleagues that I worked with. We called it Me Inc. Incorporated, or Me Inc. And then it was CEO, which was collaborative. I don't even remember what CEO word stands. Creatively empowering others. That's what it was.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, like Me Incorporated. So about like building yourself as an individual. And one of the things that we went through were, what are your main pillars? Like your 3 main pillars. And so we had to send out very specific questions to sort of our inner circle, people who knew us best or people who knew us longest. It was going through, what are your 3 pillars? And then you send out all these letters to people and hopefully they respond. Like it was certain things like, when did I give me an example of like when you saw Cori at her best? Give me an example of how she rose up from a challenging experience or something like that. So I had like people who've been in my life for a long time answer it, and people who've been in my life, like, I think at the time it was like 1 or 2 years. I had a couple of my supervisors do it for me. And then you're supposed to go through and see what the common threads are. And you take out like specific words and certain things. And so then you write them out bullet point form. And 2 of the threads, honestly, I'd have to go back and even look at what the third was. That's how like important the 2 were for me at the time, was family and freedom. And here I am in Calgary, no family. My sister had just had like my first nephew at the time. So I was like a new aunt, and I'm working for court services, which was all red tape, in my opinion. Like it was just everything you wanted to do had to go through like 5 channels of people. Seeing change happen was like, you had to be there for 20 years, 30 years maybe.
Yeah.
And even then, like, it's not really happening. Change is very slow, change, very resistant to change. I was on a couple change management committees, and like even the fact that you have to have a change management committee in government sort of speaks volumes to how resistant to change they are. And I was on this like really cool project, and we were on the 26th floor in the Trans-Canada Pipeline building. I had a corner office, like it was like windows all around. It was just like the most coolest view of downtown. And I was like, yes, I've made it. This is what I've always envisioned.
Yeah.
Sex in the City type thing. And I, minus the sex, it was just the city.
Just the city, a city view.
But yeah, I've got like all these computer monitors in front of me. I think it was like 3 or 4. And that's all I did day in, day out. And I was working on a spreadsheet, and I was bringing in, so the project was to bring like e-court to the Court of Appeal, which was huge. We were getting rid of paper at the time. And so I was a part of that, got a huge certificate for it and everything. But I remember being in the midst of it. There was only 4 of us. There was 2 out of Edmonton, 2 out of Calgary. And I was like, this is really neat. This is fun. And then I was like, I'm dying inside. This just does not fill who I am and my pillars.
Aspects.
Yes. Like, I just think it's so important. Like, and as I drifted into photography, which we'll get into, but like learning how important it is to have like that task oriented part of life and then that creative part of life. And at that point, it was 100% sort of task orientated. I was dabbling in photography already at that time, but it was nothing that was like serious, and especially in Calgary because I didn't know anyone. So photography was even harder. Like if I was coming home on the weekends, I'd maybe have a couple shoots. But yeah, I remember, so I'm in this leadership coaching program, and we had a couple clients, working on myself, working through other people's stuff, and then at the Court of Appeal. And then I come home, it's like January, so like the new year, when you're thinking about New Year's resolutions. And we're sitting around the table, and my dad was having some struggles with the business at the time. And I just remember listening to them and going, I think I can help you. And he was like, what? And then we started like, let's list out what our goals are. And we started having this family meeting of like, what are our goals? What's our long-term dreams and visions, and what are you doing to get there? Like, is it happening? And they weren't, and they didn't really even know how to get on that path. And I was like, I think I can do this for you. So I literally sent my dad a proposal. I was like, I'll sell my condo. I'll quit my job. I don't care about my pension. I don't want to be in government. I want freedom. I want the ability. And I said to them too, I was like, I want the ability to be able to do my photography, and I want the ability to keep on this coaching company that we're doing, which ended up just like naturally falling by the wayside because my colleague still lives in Calgary, and it just became too much. But yeah, and he was just like, sure. And I was like, and I want 4 weeks of holidays. And he's like, okay. And I was like, and I want the same wage that I'm making now because this is my life. And he was like, okay. And I was like, wow, like,
what else can I ask
you
for?
can actually have freedom. Like, and then I was going to be working with family, which honestly was the most rewarding. Ended up being, well, it's 8 years now. So 8 years. Very challenging, but that also, like, it's the challenges that grow you as a person. And so, yeah, those 8 years just made me into what I think is such a well-rounded individual. It was very hard because there was nothing in place when I started to work for Raycor at the time. And so I literally had to create everything. I created
which is sometimes fun versus having to revamp something that's
already.
Well, you probably did have some loose things that you were like, no, we need to do it this way. This is
we had to
probably
change
the right
a lot.
way. Yeah. Because it was just your dad kind of doing the business.
Yeah.
Was your mom helping a little bit?
No, she used to. Like, so Raycor has been around since 85, 1985. So we're almost 40 years of business. It'll be 40 years in June, which is insane. So literally my age. Because it's named after me. So it was like my namesake as well. And I'm like, this is really cool. Like, this is something I'm going to take over. And it's obviously still a dream. It just looks a little bit different nowadays. But yeah, I had to come in and put policies in place and put a business strategy in place, because my dad did a really good job of getting a business going, establishing an amazing brand in this city of quality and excellence, and you get what you pay for. But when you're so busy on the working end of things, the business end of things really struggles. And so then that's where my skills came into play. And I do feel like I had to learn the hard way for the first few years, as like, you play around or you get stung, and then you're like, oh, we should have this in place. And then, you get that in place. And then there's something in that contract or something in that estimate that stings you because you just don't know. Right. And then, so yeah, it was a lot of learning the hard way, but like I said, it makes you a better person.
Yes. And working with family can be a little messy and muddled, and to go to a family supper or whatever, a family event, and not talk about work-related things or have that on your mind. There has to be a little bit sometimes of separation and detachment. Or how do you find that part of the process?
So working with anyone who works with family, I am totally open to a conversation, because I feel like it was a little bit of a power struggle at first, until we figured out like what's our roles. But that all came down to communication. So communication was key. And I hear a lot of people who work with families and they're like, I would never do that again, or it destroyed their family, which I was very aware of coming into this and how it could destroy things. And I just made sure that I was going to always be honest and always be communicative, which did not always come out the nicest, but
Right.
at least it came out because I
Yes.
think stuffing it is where,
Animosity.
yeah, resentment and
The toxicity builds.
yeah, and
over
then
time.
it blows and then you ruin relationships. So
So being aware of that even from the get-go
mhm,
helped you meander the path a little bit more wiser than
yeah,
being naive. Like, it won't happen to me and my family.
yeah. And like never, they're not easy conversations. They're not. Like I took this course once called Crucial Conversations, and the main takeaway was a crucial conversation is something where there's the probability of losing something in it. So whether you're losing the relationship or losing respect or losing something, that's what a crucial conversation is. And a lot of the conversations I had to have with either my dad or my brother-in-law, because he worked for me too, I always viewed them as a crucial conversation because like I could lose relationship here. So what does this look like? And yeah, I just, like I said, didn't always do it right, but at least the conversations were had and our family is stronger than ever. I separated work and personal life though all the time. And if work got brought up, I was very clear on boundaries and be like, we'll deal with that on Monday, or we'll deal with that when we're back to work tomorrow, or whatever the case was. Because I, again, am very task orientated. So it's easy to just constantly talk shop and talk about that last email you got at the last end of the day, or that client that rubbed you the wrong way, or this amazing experience that happened with your employees, and I was just like, no, there's more to this, and there's, at the end of the day, there might not be a business, but there will always be a family. So how am I making sure I'm building that relationship? So that was, again, a conversation that we had, and we just made sure that we held to that boundary. But yeah, it was interesting. I think we're happier. We're happier now that
that things have settled.
Things have like taken a huge shift and transition. So we're not doing flooring or renovations anymore. My dad does a bit on the side, but for the most part, like I manage tenants now. So we rent out things, and it's like, yeah, when you're not having to, it's very passive, and we're just happier. We're all doing the thing that brings us joy. So my dad gets to be creative in his skill set and not necessarily have to worry about all this overhead and employees and stuff. I get to work in my passion and be a photographer and work with business owners. And yeah, my mom's doing her thing and working with her clients, and we're all still in the same building.
Yeah.
So I'm still working with my family and seeing my family all the time, which is, I love. But yeah, just more in our own dream path.
Yeah, that's super cool. Mm-hmm. And you would have never predicted it.
Mm-hmm. No. My prediction, and like all of this shifted last June, was that I would be taking over the business and that I'd be running these construction crews and like growing the business. Like we even talked about like moving a leg of the business into Saskatchewan. So like there was growth that happening potentially. And then all of a sudden it was like we were sort of forced into like, okay, where do we see this going?
Back to the vision board.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And is this still where our heart is at? And with the economy and coming out of COVID and
parents nearing retirement age,
that too,
slowing down a bit and enjoying being grandparents.
Yeah, it was. It sort of just made us go, let's enjoy life a little bit more and not have to grind so hard. I think that was the main thing, and get back into that freedom, because once it starts to take over your life, anything can, right? But in a bit more of a negative, stressful way. So yeah, here we are.
And living your best life.
Yep.
Mom of 2.
Yep.
Partner to a teacher. That's blessing to you. Not an easy gig.
And a farmer. So we're in the midst of harvest right now. So you have to understand, I'm like single parenting is what it sort of feels like. most days. And like he comes home the odd day and helps, which is great. But
Because your farm's a little bit of a drive from here.
yeah.
So yeah, it is like single parenting. And you have a baby and a toddler.
Yeah.
And that sounds busy.
And like not a new business. I've been a photographer for 12 years now. Well, yeah, 12 years. But I'm changing the direction of my business. So essentially it feels like it's in its infancy again.
Right.
I'm like, okay, let's start all over.
Yeah, here we go.
Here we go.
But you love it. And I think you like rebranding and like toggling what you're doing. So photography is the general umbrella that you enjoy. But like as we talked about with our photo shoot, the progress you've made on that journey of almost just like me as a teacher saying, no, okay, it's not children like me. It wasn't kindergarten, it wasn't elementary. Yours wasn't, birthday photo shoots and the families and all those moments that are starting to lead you kind of narrower and narrower to something that brings you a little bit more joy and
Yeah.
yeses.
And different stages of life too. I think that's the beauty. I was talking to another girlfriend about this, that with photography is you don't have to stay stuck in weddings. There's always another option of like, what do I want to do? I think like maybe teaching is a little bit that way. Okay, I want to teach a different subject or a different age group. And so then it's a whole new challenge on top of it. And I've sort of seen that with photography and my certain life stages, because all of a sudden, I get pregnant. I'm like, oh, maternity shoots are just like, wow, these are necessary, like so important. And so then I'm like, I need to do more of these shoots. And then it's, even families were so daunting to me, like early on in my career. And now I'm like, yeah, this is amazing. And I know how to deal with children and I know how to get their attention, or I know how to just capture those real life moments. And that's what we want. So as my life stage changed, it just seemed natural progression. Here I am coming out of, being a manager and a partner in Raycor and running a staff of 7 at one point. And like helping build business strategy, helping build growth, changing the direction of where this business even started. Like it started in hardwood floors, and then we were doing tile, we were doing full project management, full renovations. We moved into like even doing carpet and vinyl and like trying to be sort of that one-stop shop so you could take on all pieces of work once you were in a client's home versus them going, okay, you're going to do the hardware and I'm going to get someone else to come in and do like the baseboards or do the painting. I'd be like, no, I got a guy, like we can take care of all of this for you. What else do you want to quote on? Right. So taking all of those little nuggets and now bringing that into the next stage of photography for me, which is brand photography and working with businesses and working with right now, like primarily entrepreneurs or small business owners, not only entrepreneurs, but that's my heart. I felt very alone in that journey. Like I said, I felt like I had to learn the hard way.
Well, you're paving your own path, you feel. Like
yes,
other people
you are
doing it. It can't be the exact same. There can't be the same playbook necessarily. Like, yes, there's some certain components that are similar, but there's also a varying type of businesses that we won't even get into that discussion about types of businesses you can end up operating under. But it's daunting, and you wish there was an easy how-to manual guide. I know I do.
And
that would have made life easier.
My easy how-to manual guide was like, hitch your wagon to other entrepreneurs. You have to. Connections, big time. Yeah. And that's what got me on the Women in Business, because I was like, I moved back to Medicine Hat. I'd only been away for 5 years, but I felt very disconnected from everyone else's life, just sort of goes on. And so and then here I am like hustling in this new business, not much time and exhausted at the end of the day. Let's just be honest. So yeah, I just was like, okay, I need to like intentionally put myself out there if this is what I want. And I wanted to be more connected in our community. So yeah, then entered women in business.
Yeah,
And
tell me about that experience and where. So, what is the group, and when did it come into existence? Because you didn't bring it into
no,
existence; it was already established.
yeah,
Even though I feel like you've helped put it on the map and make it quite
oh,
well known in
I don't know if I'd
comparison
say
to
that.
what I knew, but maybe that's again me evolving more into the knowing more about what's in Medicine Hat as
Yeah.
I grew up and evolved my life.
Yeah. And like maybe the connection between you and I as well. Maybe that's what brought it
Yeah.
more to the forefront. But women in business has been around. Here's the problem is that it was prior to computers and social, well, not, I shouldn't say computers, but primarily social media and like a lot of electronic records. So we don't have all of that. And I have even gone back to like some of the original members and I'm like, we don't have like the history. Like none of this was captured.
Yeah.
What do you know? And like one of the
The
ladies,
historian in you wants to
exactly.
piece it all together.
Well, we
That's
want to put it on
fantastic.
social media and be like, we've been at this for 20 years
Yeah.
or, but yeah, what we can tell is it's 20 plus years. Don't have an exact date as to when it started. The lady I reached out to was on the original committee and she had like a rough idea of when it started. But she had said she'd gotten rid of all of her records because she'd been off the committee for so long already.
Oh.
So literally have nothing. Like, and then we go back on to Facebook for like, when did Facebook come into play?
Early 2000s would have been
Like
2005,
5, 6. Yeah, I was going to say something like that. So then that's as early as we can go back to see what the committee was doing at that time and who the members were. But like none of that was like kept.
Right.
So that's been a huge part for me is like digging some of that information, making Google Docs. Like we have a Google Drive and everything's like centered now. So that next like future committees can look back and be like, oh, here's some of the information that we have. So
it's a not-for-profit organization that a bunch of women gathered together and wanted to advance women.
Well, it's our primary, like our priority is creating networking opportunities for women in business for that reason, right?
Yeah.
Like feeling so alone in this journey. And so we put on, depending on the year, 3 to 4 events. We always put on, well, our newest event is the Women in Business Expo. Typically happens September, October.
Right.
And then we have our wine and cheese, which is okay, so let me go back. Our Women in Business Expo is a trade show market type event. And so you have to be 50% women-led business to be a vendor at the event. We typically have 70 to 80 vendors, and our list of women-led businesses in the city is huge. I think we have a database of over 300.
Oh, wow.
So, and that's just like what we've put together over the last 2 years. Like there's more than that. It's so cool it was mind-blowing, I think, for me the first year to be like, there's a lot of women in business out there, whether it's home-based business or like actual brick and mortar or online. Yeah, just a lot of people who are looking for other people to help and connect with and learn from. And yeah, so like I said, our mandate is just to create connections and networking opportunities. And then our wine and cheese is like literally come have wine and cheese or crackers. And we facilitate conversations. But it's literally just solely a networking event.
Yeah. And that one's cool because you're bringing in little nuggets of experts kind of at each table. Because I went one year and you rotate around and you got to see not just that person kind of giving their little story or perspective, but you had people around the table who could also interact, ask questions, and you could also interact with them. So it was a neat experience. It was probably too short of an experience because there was the amount of people that were in there and their variety of what they brought as their business, their skills, their expertise, all that stuff. So that was a cool event.
Yeah, and every year that event changes up a tiny bit, like as to how we're going to facilitate those conversations. So it's fun. Again, it keeps us being creative.
Fantastic.
And then our spring event. So that one's typically around International Women's Day, which is March.
Okay.
And then our spring event in June is our Inspire Luncheon. And that has been going on. Oh, great. I should have looked up this, but I want to say around like 13 years now. And it's where people in the community can nominate a woman who inspires them.
Right.
And so there's certain criteria that they have to like fit. And then all our nominees are sent to a judging panel that has nothing to do with women in business. And
Just
they,
random kind of community members.
yeah. So we ask business owners typically, so male or female, odd number, and they sit around and they adjudicate based off of the criteria. And yeah, usually we have like, I would say like 4 to 6 nominees in the community. And it's a surprise to us when they announce it at the event as to who wins, but it's,
you don't even
we
know.
don't
That's
even
fun.
know.
That's
And it's just cool. It's cool to see the nominees' tribes show up for them, but also just the rest of the women in the community show up for them. So those are like the 3 main ones, and how we have, I guess, like interpreted what networking means. And then our 4th one on the odd year is Empowerment Day. It's in the midst of like becoming, just changing up a little bit as we bring new blood onto the committee. It's like we get more ideas. And so that one, like historically, has been a speaker comes in, you go through some sort of like workshop type thing. And then you have supper, and then maybe another little workshop aspect or a speaker aspect. And then that's the end of the evening. But I'm finding our committee has found that way of learning is sort of like maybe 5 years ago. So we're not getting the engagement as we once were. And so looking for ways to update and evolve that a little bit. And we've got some great ideas. So it's exciting. Yeah.
And that one's fun because, you had it, was it last year? And it was Sage Watson, an Olympic athlete from this hometown. That's super cool to be able to showcase, especially a female that is slaying what she's passionate and skilled in a totally different way. It's more athletic, but it's still a business. She's a brand. She is,
and very successful.
Yes. And she's super young. I think she's still in her 20s, I would guess. But anyways, like those things, and being able to showcase that is a cool component versus some of your, I feel like all of your events kind of hit on something different.
Yes. We try to hit like all demographics, like what makes like age demographics, different, like even working demographics. Like, are you free during the day? Because like some people can't take off the afternoon to come to the Inspire Luncheon. So that's why we then have one of our events is an evening event. And then one of our events is a weekend event, right? To try and hit sort of like all different lifestyles and different individuals. And so one event might not work for you, but the next one might work. And they're all different price points for that reason as well.
Which is nice.
Yes. Historically, we have tried to keep wine and cheese as our free event, but with the economy and
sponsors can only go so far. It's nice to have that option for sure.
Yeah. So we still try to keep it at like $10. So still is.
I find a little bit of money helps as a payment, helps hold that person accountable in some ways too. To do it. Another thought I had about called the Women in Business, but you don't ignore the males in the field either. I know that's sometimes been controversial, but men have spoke at your events or been part of it. Have you ever had a male committee member?
No. So we won't. Okay. The reason why we have this conversation at the beginning of every year, like which events will we incorporate or allow men to come to, and which ones won't we? Again, because every individual is different. So we want to create a safe place if some women don't feel safe having men in the room, or are able to be vulnerable, or able to make those connections if men are in the room. So we always have one event where it's like
Fairly exclusive.
yeah, fairly exclusive. But our belief and is that we need men to support women in business. Well, there's 50% men in Medicine Hat. We need you to come and buy our services or buy our products or cheer us on.
Yeah.
Right?
It doesn't have to be a competition.
No.
It can be cooperative.
Yes.
Right? And
yeah.
you can all still win.
And we can all learn from each other too, which, so at the Wine and Cheese that you were at, where we had, I think there was 4 or 5 men from different businesses come and speak. Well, I want to learn from who the expert is, whether you're a man or a woman. So I want to know the best information that's available at the time. And so that's the mandate that we moved forward with when it came to having, men experts and female experts.
Yeah.
And then for our Inspire Luncheon, like if you're a nominee and you're married or you've got kids, like, don't you want your husband there to like witness you getting this pretty cool award in our community and very recognized? It's in the newspaper, it's on like TV, like it's pretty, it's pretty recognized now. And so as a committee, we're just like, why wouldn't we want that for our women? So we've opened the doors a little bit more for that too.
Good.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. This is why the committee needs to shift and change. And so like even this year, I am planning on stepping down as chair. I've been chair since 2019. So 5 years. And I just think it's important. I'm going to stay on the committee just as like a director or help out where I can, because I love planning the Women in Business Expo. But like
give someone else a lead.
Exactly. Let them bring fresh ideas and fresh leadership. And I'm going to not lie. Also being a mom of 2 now in my stage of life, I'm like, I'm willing to take a step back.
Yeah, a little less is okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's a volunteer committee.
Yes.
And when you're an achiever, like all of us are on that committee, we're all high achievers. Like we're movers in our industries. And so we don't want to do anything half-assed.
Yes. Sure.
So we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into our events and really want them to go off and without a hitch and be super successful for the women so that they're gaining value from our events. And so that it's something that we're proud of, I think. But having said that, it's like, let's add, 10, 20 hours a month on top of already very busy schedules and women who are already running multiple businesses usually. So it's a huge ask.
It's a commitment.
It is a commitment.
But rewarding, it sounds like.
It's very rewarding.
And that community connection, like that is something that some people take for granted in the past, and maybe us just growing into our human adult selves, we don't realize how much the human connection.
It's everything.
And feeling supported and secure in that somebody, more than somebody, has your back. A whole group of people share some of your values and passions and can help support you. That's fantastic.
And like I've made amazing connections in our community, but the connections I've also made with our committee members has been like, that's something that
those are friends
I'll take on forever. Yeah. They're my people.
Yeah.
And like, you want to have their back, you support them like crazy. Like it's like, it's funny, but amazing. When you look on Facebook and like someone posts like a win or they share a win at the meeting, and it's just like, we're all like, love, comment.
Share.
It's just like, oh, you have an event coming up, share. Everyone's sharing, the same thing. And it's just like, you have a whole group of cheerleaders behind you. And like I was missing that when I first moved back to Medicine Hat. And so it really filled it helped me get connected. And like you said, connection is, I think it's the number one purpose for all of us, is to have connection and to feel connected.
Yeah, basic human need right up there.
Yeah.
With food, water, shelter is connection.
Yeah.
To community, whatever
And to,
that community
to relationship.
Like.
Yeah. To have relationship, and whatever that relationship looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's, if you don't, it's very lonely.
Yes. And that never feels good to feel like you're in this alone.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you talk with somebody and you're like, oh, we can connect over that, or we have that in common, and oh, you're offering a support for me, or a service, or a skill you can teach me, whatever it is. That's empowering and encouraging.
And like, who do you, when you're a solo entrepreneur, it's like, I came out of government where we had like, oh, my computer broke down, call IT. Oh, I'm having a bad day, I need to call in sick because, like, I don't know, broke my ankle or sprained my ankle or whatever the case may be. And like, had all these safe holds in place. Mm-hmm. Or I'm overwhelmed. Okay, then this person's going to like come on and help me get caught up or help clear my desk. And I'm like, I had the emotional supports you had with government, like access to counseling and all of the things. I'm trying to think of, like, there's a million examples because I've said them to people so many times. And then it's like, oh, you're an entrepreneur? Yeah, I'm my own IT. I'm my own emotional support. AI, what's AI? Okay, got to learn this. And so then you're like researching that like crazy. Oh, I need contracts. Oh, so government has legal lawyers on hand. Okay, we need new contracts. Go do this. Right. You know, like, no, all of a sudden I'm doing everything. Yeah. And when you are a part of a group of women or community, all of a sudden it's like, oh, have you heard about this new thing that's coming out? And you're like, oh no, what? And like, you get all these little tidbits all of a sudden that you felt like you were hustling so hard for on your own prior. And yeah, it's just, it took a lot of stress off of things to know that you're not alone. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And someone to call and be like, hey, I heard that you were working on this. Like, what's your experience with it? Is it worth it? Like, I don't have to all of a sudden spend a whole day figuring out whether it's worth it for my business or not. Mm-hmm. So anyways, just someone to like vent to if you're having a bad day, because they understand.
Yeah, that isn't your family or your friends.
Yeah.
That's kind of, yes, they're almost both and yet none at the same time, mm-hmm. but they're an entity that can empathize with. Mm-hmm. And that's that connection that we would seek out for the working lives that we're living.
Yeah.
Is it can't just be on the family and the friends, because they don't always understand, mm-hmm. right? Until you are boots on the ground with other people and they're like, I get it, Cori.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Let me
it's
tell
like
you what
being
worked for me.
Like being a mom all of a sudden for the first time. I remember going to my sister and being like, I am sorry. I had no idea.
Like, it's so easy.
I thought I was so smart in giving all my wisdomly advice to you as to how you should raise your children or what you should do. All the shoulding, right? How we should on people. Mm-hmm. But yeah, until you're a parent, you don't get it. You don't know. And unless you're an entrepreneur, you don't get it. So you can go and I can talk to my friends who are still working in government and they don't quite understand what I do.
Right.
And so, yeah, having just, full circle, having women in business, it was a game changer for me. And also probably gave me the confidence to really jump into photography full time and not have to, rely on this other like secure business idea with Raycor. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Photography is still secure. I don't know why I'm saying that, but I don't know. Maybe less like drawn out, like a perfect roadmap.
Right.
This is a little bit more like, okay, I have to create this myself.
Your photography has followed me through most of my adulthood, mm-hmm. and documented my evolution as a human being. And I love looking at the pictures, new and old, and the varying places we've done them. And I just think that you are definitely following, for one, your heart, but your passion. And that shows up when you do your work. That creative part comes out, and we can get silly and fun and just let it flow.
Yeah.
Versus having to micromanage and try and perfect everything. I think that is where, for lack of a better word, where the money's at. That's where the
Yes.
happiness lies. That's where
Yeah.
success is for you and me and all the rest of the people. So
Mhm.
I think you've hit your next decade on a pretty great note, and you have a lot to look forward to and build on. And I love where that's going for you and the evolution of Cori and where you're going to go, but also the impact that what you've done already is going to make in helping future entrepreneurs, helping businesses brand themselves. And I'm sure you'll still do nuggets of weddings and the other little things as people might request.
I just booked one yesterday.
Yes, see? And still say yes to the things that fill you with joy.
Yeah.
And you do it so well. And I appreciate you, not just as what you do for a business, but as a friend.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.
So do you have any thoughts or questions to finish up? You can ask me anything too.
I listened to your first podcast that you were on with Annie, and you talked about how each decade sort of has been another like learning.
Chrysalis.
Yeah, exactly. And gets sweeter and sweeter with time. I don't know. I just like, maybe I don't have a question. Maybe I have more of just a thought. And I just wanted to thank you for that, because that's sort of how I've gone through life. Is my 30s were the best, or my 20s were the best. And there's so many other people in my life who are like, oh, I'm turning 35. Like, this is the worst birthday, or dreading turning 40, or dreading turning 50. And I think that that's such an empowering conversation to be having with people about how it can keep getting sweeter and sweeter, because I truly believe that as well. And I love that there's someone else out there that views it this way, because I'm like, man, my 30th birthday was the best birthday I think I ever had. And I remember having girlfriends who were crying over it. And now I'm like, I'm 40 in a couple of months, and I'm like, I can't wait. I'm like, to me, every decade just means another reason to go on a big trip, right? Like, it's 40. We have to celebrate this.
And that I treat maybe now in looking back, it's like almost every decade rollover into that new time is like the New Year's resolution you talked about. But you get a whole new decade to brand yourself and redo the vision board, remake yourself, because you're in the driver's seat.
And we're wiser at this point.
Yes,
like, it's more beautiful.
And learn from it and grow and expand, and also choose your yeses and be strong in your no's, and your values are more ingrained of what matters to you and what matters for you impacting outside of yourself. So that's kind of, you have to meander. We're quite selfish as we're young. Into the 30s is when we really start to, I think, evolve outside of ourselves. That's when we start building families and sacrificing a lot of time and energy to help others, whether it's our children, as teachers, our students, all the things. And I think that's the nice part about, we're truly in some of the best times of our lives, and we just don't even know it yet how great it's going to be. And that makes me excited.
Makes me excited too.
We were locked and loaded and ready to go. And I think both of us are at the point where we can enjoy the ride as it takes us and kind of go with the flow, but also be strong in steering the course as well. You know, not like letting it totally be free for all, but having those boundaries and limits, and also guideposts to make sure we just stay in the bumper, stay in the lane, but still enjoy where it takes us. And the journey's going to be fun.
Yeah. Already I'm like, I can't wait till 50. I'm like, what's 50 going to bring?
Totally. And that's the exciting part about aging. Eventually, I think you learn to enjoy it. Once I've noticed, once now that I'm in the second half, where it's more counting down than counting up.
Yeah.
Great. everything is peanuts now, and I am excited to embrace what new avenues and opportunities are ahead.
Yeah.
Because I can't even, just like you years ago, couldn't have imagined being here now. That's the exciting part for us, is where will we be in the future?
And we're both on a very similar journey. I think it's cool. Like talking about connections and surrounding yourself with people who are in similar. So like, thank you for sharing this season of my life with me.
Yes, and every season we're seasoned friends.
Yes.
Seasoned.
I was just going to say we're well seasoned.
Well, we're going to have this conversation again in 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and just photo shoots to go with it.
Oh, awesome.
You will always be that for me.
When I look back, like, why did I want to be a history major or historical consultant? I'm like, essentially, that's what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm putting a stamp in your history so that you can take a look back and be like, oh, remember these really cool moments, and remember this person maybe who's no longer with us, or remember my babies as babies who are now, adults, or like that laughter or that little cheeky look. And so like essentially I'm a historical consultant. I literally did what I said I was going to do.
And you did it yourself. You didn't have to work for someone else. You get to do it all yourself. And I think that's the best part is, and I'm sure you've noticed this in your path and of interacting with others, is holding our power for ourselves to decide what that means for us, and not allowing the outside world, society, standards, whatever, to impact us and make us unhappy or lose sight of what truly drives our passion.
Yeah. And thank you. I know that, and I needed that reminder. I think even being a mom of 2 young ones right now, because again, my priorities right now are them, and you get torn into like, you need to be career driven. You need to be so focused on this. And I am, and always will be. I love working.
Yes.
I'm like, I think work is a hobby for me. So that's not something I'll ever be able to give up. But when so much of your focus and priorities go to your kids, you still have like that little negative person on your shoulder saying you're not doing enough. So again, this is to carve out your own path. This is what's working for me, and this is what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. And it might not be how everyone else does it. And that's okay.
I can't wait for all the trials and tribulations that you will face, and the stories and the books you could write.
The books. I think I should start writing a book.
I think we all should write books, and it can be on any topic, any length, any size of book. It doesn't matter. We all have stories to tell, and people find comfort in other people saying, yeah, this was what I experienced, or laughing at that, and just bringing about some authenticity to humaning. And because it's hard, and everyone's going through hard times, but it's where can we relate and find that connection again through empathy of, yeah, I fell on my face once, or whatever it is, whatever the examples might be. I encourage you to write. That's definitely one of my dreams, is to be a published author and share some of what I've experienced and what I've come to know as my truth about the world I at least live in, which probably at least 1 million or more on this 8 billion plus people planet have experienced something similar to.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that makes me feel a little bit
I can relate to her. Yeah.
So that's cool.
That is cool. Stories are powerful. That is my tagline in my photography, is capturing your essence and amplifying your story. And yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to capture people's stories and help them tell their story, and help them tell their business story so that they can be successful too. Like, just, yeah.
I think you're doing a good job, and I am thankful and grateful for our experience today, both our discussion as well as our fun photo shoot. And I can't wait to see the pictures and how they
can't wait
turn
to
out.
edit.
So encouraging, and I feel so classy and beautiful. And I'm more than thrilled at the experience that we had today, and just entrench our friendship just a little little bit deeper.
Yes.
So thank you, Cori.
High five us. Good job. You're good at what you do. So I'm going to just shoot where you naturally land, and I like that you landed right there. And then I'm going to move you from there. Because I'm just going to work with, see what my lighting is. Change a couple of these. Oh, I love it. Okay, this is going to be me the whole time, switching up the lenses. This one is like really in your face, so we get the nice close up. Oh, gorgeous. Oh, I like that a lot. Okay, turn that way. Yeah. And then same, I just want you to, let's go through a bit of a motion. So like bringing our hands together and then just like a little bit of a turn over our shoulder. Okay.
First stance?
Yeah. So just like what's comfortable. So we'll do a couple things. And so it could just be like this, and then we're just turning. Yeah. So that, like you said, it's not stiff. It's a bit more natural. We'll do it a couple times. Okay. Okay. Oh, perfect. Come on, focus. There we go. So same thing. I want your body this way, and then we're going to turn with our bow tie. Okay. Yeah, exactly. I love it. Okay. Can we do that one more time? So you got to just keep getting different angles here. Yes. Oh, I love that. That's great. And then look in here while you're doing it. Yeah. And even looking back out the window there over your shoulder. Yes. Yeah. Right there. Oh, I like that. See, that's still sort of cutesy, but it's not like 2-year-old cutesy. Okay, I just want you to look down right there. I really like it. Like even like play with your bow tie, like fiddle around with it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then big laugh right there. Oh, you're looking down.
There's a place that I know. It's where all the sunshine goes. The brightest spot along the highway 1. A city where you always know someone. Hey, hey, where's it at? Hey, 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 Medicine Hat. Sitting on the treaty 7 and 4. A sunny spot with an open door. A running river with a few coolies and the 88 Olympic teepee. Hey, hey, would you look at that? Hey, 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 Medicine Hat. Oh, its roots run deep, the stomping ground of community, a sunny city where you always matter. We call it Hatters Helping Hatters, Medicine Hat. Hop in a hot air balloon, rise up, you'll enjoy the view. Don't forget my Delta pottery, those bricks have history. Hey, hey, welcome back. Hey, 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 Medicine Hat. Oh, its roots run deep, the stomping ground of community, sunny city where you always matter. We call it Hatters Helping Hatters, Medicine Hat.
Helping Hatters was created, hosted, and produced by Misty Zanger and is a Mystified Productions podcast.